سلام میکنم به همه شما دوستان عزیزان و همراهان پرژن اواردز. مجده هستم از جوایز پارسی Persian Awards, and I am with a really special guest today with Councilor Christian Arseneault. If I pronounce it right, I tried my best. Mr. Arseneault, if you can please tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Mojdeh. Salam to everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, not least because I have the pleasure of representing a neighborhood in Montreal that has a large and growing Persian population. And so it's really a treat and a delight to be here with you. Like I said, I represent the western half of a neighborhood called Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, or NDG, as we call it, in the west end of Montreal. And for some years now, for several years now, we've had a growing population of the Persian community, right to the point where we have Persian social clubs, and even for a couple of years, a space that acted as a Persian community center. So we do have a large community here in Montreal, not just in my neck of the woods, and it really adds to the diversity of our city. So yeah, thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much. And so you are familiar a little bit with Persian community. That's really even easier. Even you said salam to everyone. So thank you for acknowledging that. That's really nice of you. So my first question, Councillor, is, in your opinion, what is the importance of the role of culture and art in the society?
Well, I take my cues from what I've seen here in Montreal. And I'm sure it's similar for a lot of other cities around the world. But what we see here, especially in my neighborhood, where we have people from dozens of countries around the world, is that any given culture, any single given culture contributes to the mosaic that we have in our local neighborhood in a way that gives new arrivals a sense of connection and safety, because they know that there are other members of their community that can help them adjust and learn their way around. And it also increases the exposure that other people have to other cultures, which I'm convinced is a good thing. And so I got to benefit myself personally, partly as a result of my work, but just being exposed at the community level to all these different communities that hold different events throughout the year. It really goes a long way to encouraging an openness towards other cultures that I think is sometimes lacking in some places these days. So here in NDG, for example, we have an intercultural festival where we encourage members of virtually every community here to get involved, to put up tables, to put on art and culture demonstrations, dances, music, you name it. That we always emphasize cuisine as well. Of course, we have tons of delicious food, and we have some wonderful Persian restaurants in NDG. So yeah, I really think, I'm convinced, based on what I've seen in the neighborhood, that having these different cultures living close together really opens people's minds and enriches our daily lives, because we're surrounded by so much diversity.
Great. So my next question from you as a politician person is how you can support this art and culture, especially for like immigrants that they're coming and they are new and they're going to be a citizen in Canada or any other places in the world.
Well, I do it, and I'm not the only one, obviously. This is something that I think many, if not most, politicians in diverse neighborhoods in Montreal definitely do. We support a lot of the groups that work to help new arrivals and new immigrants just get their bearings and learn their way around town. I've also been fortunate enough to connect specifically with two Iranian women who have decided to call Montreal their homes. One of them being Homa Hoodfar, who I imagine needs no introduction to the community, and who works at Concordia University, which has a campus in my district, and Gina Cody, who recently had a new faculty of engineering named after her, also at Concordia University. So that's two members of the Iranian and Persian diaspora that have decided to settle in Montreal and that are doing incredible work in Montreal. And partly through my work, I've just had the good fortune of meeting them and being a part of that, and being able to spread the word to let people know that on an academic institutional level, members of the Persian community are having a real impact in our city.
So we go to the academic part in my next question. I'm going to pass the next one to the academic part, especially as you know that there's a lot of immigrants that are coming and they want to like continue their education in any scientific or academic role, and they want to have the role. What do you think that the steps should be done for them to be involved in the academic and scientific role after graduation?
After graduation is admittedly a challenge, especially these days, although Montreal is known for being at the center of some growing industries in Quebec and in Canada. And so, you know, I think of a couple of students that I met who had just moved to Montreal from Iran, as it so happens. And I had put them up at my place for about a week and a half while they were waiting to get their apartment. And one of the challenges for them was very much a cultural one. You know, it's a very different place than what they're used to. I think university itself can go a long way to helping people adjust, just because it is one of those places where all kinds of different minds meet, all different cultures meet in ways that might not otherwise happen in the city. But as far as making the shift from academia into the workforce, I have to admit, I don't think there's any easy answer to that. I've witnessed a lot of people have difficulty making the shift. That being said, I know that universities like Concordia and McGill, especially Concordia, have excellent co-op programs, cooperative programs, where people are able to start getting involved in the workforce before they finish. Most notably our business school. I think the engineering school does as well. And so there are these opportunities that are really built into the curricula at the universities that give students these interfaces with the job market and let them start meeting prospective employers. From my experience, that's the one that's offered the most success to people that are making their way out of school. And beyond that, there is, for many communities in Montreal at least, there's quite the network of business communities, small and medium-sized businesses in particular. We have many international chambers of commerce that can connect aspiring business owners with companies back home and really reinforce those links. So in a city like ours, there are a couple of options that I think are really promising for new graduates.
So what you are saying is just, according to your experience, is just step by step. After, like, when they are just getting to the university, there's a lot of like cooperate programs that they can sign in and find the path for their career, or even just join the academic part as well. And you are supporting this, like as a politician, you are supporting all of these activities and
well, for at the municipal level, there's a bit less focus on the education system as a whole. That tends to be governed more at the provincial level. But what municipal administrators and representatives can have a role in is in ensuring that our communities are as friendly to small businesses and to startups as possible. And so Montreal has a slew of programs, especially those that are run through PME Montreal, so basically small, medium-sized businesses Montreal, where we offer support to startups, we offer support to new shops and merchants. We have funding programs that are available to help merchants with their storefronts, as well as a slew, especially in the past year and a half, we've massively increased our funding in direct support to businesses to respond to the pandemic and also to the amount of construction that we have happening in our city, because we realize that that can be difficult for small businesses to live with as well. So while at the municipal level, we don't play a direct role in education, I like to think that we have a role in creating the kind of environment that is more conducive to startups and entrepreneurship and new businesses, including new business onto the scene.
That was really kind of like hope, especially for whoever wants to start. Even you gave the suggestion and the support for entrepreneurship or any small businesses. That's great. So we go back to the art and culture, councillor. What do you think that is the role of the culture and art in connecting as a solid relationship between citizens, new immigrants, and they are permanent resident? Like there is a kind of like 3 levels, that they are newcomers, they are just been in Canada for a little bit longer, and citizen. What is this kind of role of alt culture?
Well, when I think about the different cultural options that we have just locally and that we emphasize in the city or in the neighborhood, we get a nice intersection and a nice overlap of specific cultural initiatives with specific cultural communities, which we support in various ways. And then, of course, the city and borough offer cultural support for all kinds of activities that we put on in the public sector ourselves. And of course, we have our larger institutions that I hope act as attractions to everyone, no matter where they're from, no matter how long they've been here, that can really reinforce a shared culture in our broader society. I think sometimes there might be some challenges in helping people to learn of just all the options that are out there. Something that I've come across in my work as a counselor is that many people, including those who have been here for a very long time, including people who were born here, often don't know everything that's on offer. They're not aware of just how many options there are to explore. And so the fact that people who have been living here for their entire lives don't know that makes me a little apprehensive that we're not doing a good enough job of informing our new arrivals either, so that while they're engaging in cultural connections with people from back home and with their immediate cultural community, they can also start dipping their toes into the waters a little bit to explore what Montreal has to offer, because Montreal has so much to offer. So I'd say that's the big challenge for local government, local representatives, and local cultural institutions, is to remind people that, hey, we're here. There's all of this that's available. It's usually low cost or even free over the course of a year. And there are so many different ways of exploring what we often call the host culture from here. So the ongoing challenge is just to make sure that people know that those options are there to explore.
So as you said, I wanted to ask you, what do you think as a politician person, because you mentioned about the local importance of like local media, I can say, informing everybody. You mentioned in your work that there is a lot of people that they're born in Canada or they're born in Montreal, but they don't know anything. What is the offer? What do you think is the role of local media to just empower the art and culture and all of the kind of programs that you have for people?
Local media, I'm convinced, has an absolutely crucial role to play. And the challenge for local media is that the media landscape, and especially the economics of media, have been shifting so much over the last several years that it's very difficult for local media to survive. We see some exceptions in Montreal, especially with cultural community newspapers, many of which have taken the digital shift in order to reduce their costs. And yet, in my own neighborhood, a few years ago, we lost one of our core neighborhood newspapers. It was called the NDG Free Press. It came out every 2 weeks, and it reported exclusively on local affairs, including many, many local cultural and artistic events that most people probably wouldn't have known about otherwise. So I definitely think that there's a role for media to play. In fact, just recently at Montreal City Council, we debated the importance of offering more opportunities to small local media to support them economically. For example, by putting official announcements of the city into local media and therefore helping with their advertising budget a little bit. Little ways that we can help like that. But it's an ongoing challenge because the economics of it are not really favorable to small outfits. I don't think anyone's really figured out a solution to that yet.
Thank you. It's just like, especially nowadays that you told everyone, like in your speech, that there is a lot of like exchange to the digital media. Like the local media's role now is more important to inform, especially about the local events that happening to help new immigrants, I can say, or even anybody who wants to use any program. My next question from you is, how do you think, like, what is the first step, I can say, like, we do have baby steps, we call it, that the new immigrants needs to take it to grow in the society and to bring the art and culture that they're bringing from their home country. Everybody is coming from somewhere that they are so contribute in their art and culture, but when they're coming, as you mentioned in your speech, that they're shocked that what's going on. They need to just be in the culture. What is the baby step or first step in your opinion?
Well, for a neighborhood like mine, the first step I often think, automatically my mind goes to an organization like Bienvenue à NDG, or Welcome to NDG, which is actually the name of the organization is Welcome to NDG, and they have an ultra diverse staff that help new arrivals and new immigrants get their bearings. So before you can do anything else, you need to make sure that you have a roof over your head, that you know how to get around, that you have some points of contact in the community. And it's mostly nonprofits like Welcome to NDG that do a really wonderful job with that. After that, it's not so much a baby step as it is a fairly large one. I think that the main way to become more comfortable and more established in a new place and in a new community is often through work. And we see it with people, not only people who have arrived in Montreal from elsewhere, but even with people who grew up here, but grew up, for example, in English. Now, that's the case for me. When I was young, I only spoke English, and I did not connect very much with Francophone culture and you know, the majority culture in Quebec and in Montreal. It took me working to learn French and to become comfortable enough in French that now I can connect more with Francophone Montrealers on a cultural level. And it's not fair to call that a baby step because it involves learning a new language, but it really is the most important one that anyone can make. And especially in places like NDG, like this neighborhood, there's such an openness to people learning that it creates a safe space where people can feel like it's okay to learn. It's okay to make mistakes, because we all make mistakes when we're learning a new language. We all make mistakes when we're learning new cultural reference points. And I just hope that we can continue to lead by example in these diverse neighborhoods, so that people coming from elsewhere feel safe, feel supported, and feel like they're really welcome here, because everyone understands that, yeah, sometimes it can take a while to adjust. It's a very different place, but they're still welcome, and we still love having people from all over the world call NDG their home.
Yeah, it's an expression when we call it baby step. I agree with you. Learning a new language is not a baby step.
Not a baby step, no.
No, not at all. Especially when it's just that you cannot jump over the ladder. You need to just take the steps one by one. That's why I called it baby step. But For sure, I'm saying that learning a new language is not baby step, for sure, not at all. So in your opinion, as you know that like you mentioned in your speech, there is a lot of communities in the diversity province like Montreal, like any other province in Canada, that connection together, like when they connected together, they can empower the arts and culture. In your opinion, as a politician person, how they can make this connection so the communities work together and introduce their art and culture together?
I think in part, politicians often play a role there on a purely political level in terms of building coalitions and reaching out to different communities to get them involved in the political process, which is one step. It's not explicitly cultural, but it definitely intersects and sometimes overlaps with cultural initiatives. And then, like I said, depending on the community, because Montreal is obviously a very diverse city, but it's a little bit more difficult to find this kind of diversity that we have here once you leave the city and once you leave Montreal Island. And so I think a major role that's played is really for these organizations whose job it is to support immigrant communities, precisely because, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, oftentimes, if you don't know the system intimately, if you don't know how to navigate, the different opportunities to get funding and support, and how do you get your permit for an event in the park? If you want to hold a cultural event in the park, that means you need to contact your local government. All these little things that some people might not be familiar with. New arrivals groups, again, like Welcome to NDG, and I really can't emphasize it enough because these groups do incredible work. They can really help bridge those gaps for anyone who wants to contribute in terms of arts and culture from a cultural community, and of course, more broadly speaking. And it's through these groups that these different communities come into contact with one another as well. When I think of an organization like Welcome to NDG, I think they have, between half a dozen and a dozen different staffers from everywhere on earth, right? I think out of 10 or 12 people that they have that work for the organization, they have 10 or 12 different mother tongues. And so having those connections within organizations as well as outside of them, I think goes a long way to putting these different communities in touch with each
other. Great, thank you. So my next question is about awards like Persian awards. What do you think about these awards, like Persian awards? In any communities, there is some awards that is gonna empower the art and culture and have more activities in art and culture. What is your opinion about this kind of awards?
I think it's wonderful. I was well, just as a great example, when you first reached out to discuss this with me, I was pleasantly surprised and I was delighted that that someone was reaching out from the other side of the country, the other side of the continent, to talk about these Persian awards. So it just goes to show that once you become more well established on the arts and culture scene, especially with the options, the tech options that we have available today, the sky's the limit. You can do something like this worldwide through Zoom interviews. It's wonderful. It really is. I don't know of many other cultural communities, at least in Montreal, that do something like this. Although I do imagine it exists. So I'm just blown away. I'm really delighted that this is happening, and I imagine that many Persian folks that are here in NDG will be really happy to be involved in it too, because it's something that's not just nationwide but continent wide, and that's something that people appreciate no matter where they're located. It's really wonderful, and just let me congratulate you on this this Persian Awards initiative. It's really fantastic.
Thank you so much. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's just global, and with this new world that we are right now. You are in Montreal, I'm in British Columbia, Vancouver, and around the world, we can connect all the Iranian together, all the Persian together, and just empower the art and culture and introduce it. So thank you for acknowledging that. So my next question is about us as a volunteer who is working in Persian awards. What is your opinion as a politician person? That do you think that we can give the good feedback about the Persian culture, Persian arts, and introduce it? What is your opinion about us?
Well, I think that whether it's arts and culture or any other sector of civil society, so much of the real work of value and importance is done by volunteers. And when it's not done by volunteers, it's often done by people working for community organizations or public organizations that are really, they're not doing it for the money, right? There's oftentimes not enough support that's given to these organizations by either the private sector or by different levels of government. Something that I think all governments in Canada can and should do much better at. So when that financial support isn't available to really bolster the operation, it falls to volunteers to make things happen, and it's a labor of love. I've experienced that myself in politics, just because, especially in municipal politics, there's, we don't work with that much money. So people who really believe in the cause get involved, and they give their time and energy through volunteering. And I might not go so far as to say that it's volunteers who make the world go round, but that's not far from the truth. So again, hats off to you, because you are occupying a space that would not be able to function without the devotion of volunteers. And whether it's the Persian Awards or something that's more cuisine related, or anything else that falls under the cultural domain, broadly speaking, there are volunteers left, right, and center, and that goes for my neighborhood as well, with many of our local community organizations. And our communities would not be the same without them. They wouldn't be the same without you. So I'm just grateful that people are willing to step up, even if it means digging into their personal time and making it a labor of love.
Thank you for acknowledging that. So my next question from you, Councillor, is what do you think that should be done to encourage the production companies to produce more art and culture activities? Like, what is the step that should be done?
Good question. It's not something that I've had to interact with too much in my role, because, like I said, usually at the municipal level, we give financial support in relatively small amounts, all things considered, to very local organizations, and then a little bit more financial support to citywide arts and culture organizations. But if I had to say off the top of my head, I think it would be interesting, like I said a few minutes ago, just to increase governmental support for arts and culture initiatives right across the board, because compared to many other countries, we do not give that much support to arts and culture at all, let alone to that's being done by cultural communities. Just a case in point is a friend of mine just recently moved to Paris, because he's an opera singer, and he was explaining to me how much the French government spends on just funding opera in France, and it was to the tune of hundreds of millions of euros a year, and that blows anything that we do out of the water. So we're operating on very different levels, and I think at a certain point, for all levels of government, if we want to encourage these sorts of things, we need to put our money where our mouths are. So for me, it often comes down to a funding issue. We need to really show our support by financing these things to increase the reach and increase what you're able to do with your existing organizations.
Great, you answer my next question about funding by, yeah, it's just related together, the production companies and funding. Yeah, so it's important. There is some kind of like immigrants or even some kind of like communities that they want to empower and they need capital or support, or any in the academic part, they need funding to create that environment or to create the initiative and the new kind of ideas that they want to, empower it. So thank you, you answered that. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you or you want as an advice to give us?
I would just say to keep doing what you're doing. And if there's any way that I can help spread the word, then I'm more than happy to do so. Like I said, we have a large and growing Persian community here in NDG. They've already been organized for some time now. There are community events that happen regularly. We have a number of delicious Persian restaurants in the neighborhood as well. But this is the kind of thing that the fact that you're reaching members of the community really all around the world is incredible. And I wish you all the best and all the success in the world because we need to see more events like this. And this is really one way in which I think the Persian community is setting the example for many of the other cultural communities that we have here in Montreal and across the country. This is really cool. So thank you for doing it, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much, Councilor, for accepting our invitation. It was my honor to talking to you and acknowledge and all the support. And like you mentioned that you are here to support us and spread the word about us. So that's great. Thank you so much. Hopefully we will, one day we will do it, like now is virtual. One day we're going to do it and we will invite you and we will meet each other like in person. Thank you so much for all of you that you were watching us. This is Mojdeh with Councilor, I don't want to pronounce it again, Christian Arseneault from Montreal. Thank you for accepting our invitation again. به اتفاق مهمان عزیزمون از همه شما عزیزان برنامه پرژن آوارد جوایز پارسی خداحافظی میکنم تا دیدار دیگه. لبخند از رو لباتون دور نشه. خدا نگهدار. Thank you. Bye bye.